Welcome back, guys. This is part 8 of my top 100 favorite movies list. We're gonna just jump into it with number 30 to 21. Number 30. North by Northwest. This, for me, is the pinnacle of the wrong man story that Alfred Hitchcock tends to make. Even though he did make a movie called The Wrong Man, I think North by Northwest is his most famous. And it's sort of a confusing plot when you get right down to it, but I think what makes this plot work is that you're just as confused as the main character is, played by Cary Grant, who is phenomenal in this movie. It has a great sense of comedy as well. Cary Grant has all these quippy one-liners and comebacks to anyone that tries to insult him or talk back to him. He's just so charming, so charismatic. The direction from Hitchcock is fantastic. The cinematography is great. The two most iconic scenes in the movie involve the crop duster and the big climax on top of Mount Rushmore, and they're just iconic all around. The crop duster scene works because it's just so realistic and doesn't really contain much except sound effects. And then the big finale on Mount Rushmore is just the peak of cinematic excellence, mainly due to Bernard Herrmann's phenomenal score. It's thrilling, funny, exciting, clever, it's all the above. It is one of Hitchcock's best movies out there. And I know I've talked a lot about his movies. I'm not done talking about Hitchcock movies, but yeah, this is a no-duh when it comes to his classics. Number 29. The Incredibles, one of Pixar's finest movies out there, and the first time they ever got a movie that was rated PG. What works about this movie is that it was in the early years of the modern superhero genre, and was better than all the superhero movies that were coming out at the time, like X-Men X2, Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, and this movie came out a year before Tim Story's Fantastic Four and ended up being the best Fantastic Four movie made, and it's not even a Fantastic Four movie. How many times can I say Fantastic Four? But what works about The Incredibles is not the superhero stuff. I mean, it's great and all, the action's exciting, but what works is that you follow the main character, Mr. Incredible, Bob Parr, who's pretty much going through his midlife crisis. He wants to go back to the days of being a superhero, but society won't let him, and now he has a family, and it's really cool to see this guy deal with these struggles. And then when the family eventually gets dragged into it, it becomes even more powerful, with creative action scenes, real strong emotion, a great score by Michael Giacchino. This is the movie that really put him on the board in terms of great film composers. It's easily one of Pixar's best, and there's been a reason why for years and years we've been clamoring for a sequel until we actually got it. And as good as that sequel is, it just can't top this movie. It's excellent. Number 28. The Terminator, the movie that really launched James Cameron's career from a truck driver to one of the most critically acclaimed directors out there in Hollywood. And much like with District 9, this movie is so impressive for having so much going for it, but costing so little. I believe it's an independent movie, but it's got fantastic special effects. Even with the stop motion on the Terminator at the end, a lot of it just feels very real and believable because it just has that gritty feeling to it. And it's really a slasher movie when you get right down to it. The T-800 just going around killing people until it finds its target, Sarah Connor. But you care about what's going on. Linda Hamilton is great as Sarah Connor. Michael Biehn as Kyle Reese is a great hero as well. And this is also the movie that launched Arnold Schwarzenegger's career. And even though he doesn't have much to do in this movie except stand there menacingly and say a few one-liners, he sells it. He is menacing as this, for lack of a better word, robotic character. And the music's great. It is a classic in terms of 80s science fiction that isn't higher on this list because of one reason. I'll get to that reason in a couple of videos from now. Number 27. Alice in Wonderland. Out of all the Disney movies that were made when Walt Disney was alive, this is my favorite. More than Pinocchio, more than Fantasia, more than Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Alice in Wonderland is that movie for me. Part of that reason has to do with the fact that when I got older, I read the Lewis Carroll books, but also this was just one of the Disney movies that I watched over and over and over again as a kid. I mean, sure, the plot itself doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but in the words of Korg, nothing makes sense here. The only thing that does make sense is that nothing makes sense. Does that make any sense? I hope it makes sense. There's things in this movie that are pretty distant from the book, but sometimes when you make a cinematic version of a book, you kind of have to make changes because not everything can be translated well, especially in the case of Alice in Wonderland, and I think they did a phenomenal job here. It's just wacky, it's bizarre, it's very clever. Alice as a character herself is really good, and you kind of feel her frustration going through Wonderland itself because you just want something to make sense with these characters. You want to see her find her way back home, and nobody will really help her because they're just so insane. The score and songs are great, the characters are iconic, it's got a great ride at Disneyland, and it's just one of the best Disney animated movies out there, and in my opinion, again, the best animated movie that Walt Disney produced while he was alive. Number 26. Before Sunrise. This is one of the more recent movies on this list that I've seen. I've never seen the Before trilogy up until a couple months back, and holy crap, did Before Sunrise leave an impression on me. Much like with a lot of Richard Linklater movies, there really isn't a full story to this. It's more just like a slice of life being shown, and what really works about this movie is that the two characters are very real and very believable. It's just these two college students going through this town in Europe, getting to know each other, that were just introduced on a train, total strangers at first, and it's very heartfelt. The cinematography, direction, script is great. Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy are so good together and have fantastic chemistry, and I do like the other two movies, Before Sunset and Before Midnight, but this one's my favorite, hands down. Number 25. E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Some people might argue for Close Encounters as the better Spielberg alien movie, but E.T. works for me because of the fact that I saw it at a young age. It's such a simple story. An alien that gets trapped and abandoned on Earth befriends a young boy, and he and his siblings and friends have to help him get back home. And for being such a simple story, and for being right down to it, a kid's movie, it's very emotional. The animatronic they use for E.T. is so convincing that you never think it's an animatronic. You think of E.T. as a real character, a real alien. And what really excels this movie more than anything is the John Williams score. Every time I hear the first few notes of the flying theme, not only do I automatically know it's from E.T., but I get a little teary-eyed because it's such a gorgeous score. It won John Williams his 4th Oscar. There's a damn good reason why. And I had the experience of seeing E.T. in concert at the Hollywood Bowl a couple of years ago, and if that's not a testament to how great his score is, then I don't know what is. It's one of the best John Williams scores and one of the best Spielberg films ever made. Number 24. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? This is an interesting movie for me personally because the only way I ever saw it were on bus trips at my elementary/middle school when we were going up from summer camps or winter camps. Anytime we were on a bus for a long period of time, they would always play this movie. So I really never understood the movie until I saw it at home, and it might be the best film noir ever made, or neo-noir I should say, and it involves cartoon characters. Bob Hoskins is so good as Eddie Valiant that I keep forgetting that he's actually British, similar to how I keep forgetting that Natalie Wood isn't Latina. And the dynamic he has with Roger Rabbit, a cartoon character that's not even there on set, is so good. It's so convincing. And much like with the E.T. animatronic, you really believe that these cartoon characters are real characters, even though they are cartoons. It has a great cartoonish sense of humor that surprisingly does not clash or feel inorganic compared to the dark film noir moments. The music by Alan Silvestri is great. The other supporting characters are great as well, like Jessica Rabbit, the Weasels, Christopher Lloyd as Judge Doom. It's just an iconic movie all around. And the idea of seeing Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny in the same frame is just so cool. Although I'm curious with how much Disney is acquiring everything, how much longer will it be before they actually buy Warner Brothers and we see Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny together again? I don't even want to put that idea in their head, so I'm just going to move on. Roger Rabbit, great movie, I absolutely love it. Number 23. Aladdin, my favorite Disney animated movie that's not from Pixar. There's just so much about this movie that is perfect. The songs are perfect, And The Lion King's great as well. I talked about that in an earlier video in the series. But Aladdin just works so much better for me. The characters are more fun, the songs are more catchy and iconic, and what really sells this movie more than anything is Robin Williams as the genie. This is a phenomenal voice performance, and the genie himself is just one of the great animated characters of all time. The design is cool, the antics are just so great and just so out there. And besides the genie himself, Jafar is just one of the best Disney villains out there. They give so much emotion and personality to a carpet. It's just a masterpiece in terms of animation. And the funny thing is, despite me saying all of that, Aladdin is not a movie that I saw over and over and over again as a kid. I don't even remember seeing this movie in the theater, but the fact that it's my favorite Disney animated movie just says something. It's awesome. Number 22. Marvel's The Avengers. Despite every Dark Knight, despite every Winter Soldier, despite every Black Panther, despite every Infinity War, for me, The Avengers is my favorite superhero movie out there. And one of the reasons is the fact that it even exists. The idea of making a live-action Avengers movie and having other solo movies set up the Avengers, Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, and Captain America, was unheard of. I was on board with it all the way because I wanted to see it succeed, and not only did it succeed, but it exceeded my expectations. It was so much better than I could have ever imagined. The idea of seeing these characters all together in the same movie in live action is just incredible. The action's exciting, the dynamic between all these characters is great, it's got a really good script. It is the movie that really set the Marvel Cinematic Universe into full gear and showed that, yeah, this series has staying power. And I will admit something, I think Infinity War might be a more well-made movie considering the history that Infinity War had to follow. But again, the fact that this first movie was made at all and is as great as it is why this is my favorite movie in not just the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but in terms of the genre of comic book movies. I adore The Avengers. Number 21. Yojimbo. Hands down the best Akira Kurosawa film ever made. I might like A Fistful of Dollars, I might love A Fistful of Dollars, but that movie wouldn't have been anything without Akira Kurosawa's Yojimbo. Everything about this movie is just brilliant on all accounts. The cinematography, from the gorgeous black and white to the incredible long shots, to Toshiro Mifune's brilliant performance as the samurai with no name. It has a great and very sick sense of humor, especially the scene where the dog is walking by with someone's hand in his mouth. The score by Masaru Sato is phenomenal. It's my favorite Masaru Sato score, better than any score he's ever done for the Godzilla series. There's just so much about this movie that screams cinematic excellence. And like with Seven Samurai and like with The Hidden Fortress, this movie went on to inspire so many other pieces of media, including, as I mentioned, Fistful of Dollars, proving once again that Akira Kurosawa is one of the best and most influential filmmakers ever. And those are my favorite movies from number 30 to 21, and holy crap, we are down to the top 20 movies. Look for part 9 where I talk about number 20 to 11 in a couple days, but until then I want to know what you guys think of this list. What do you think of the movies I picked for number 30 to 21? Do any of these rank in your top 100 or even top 30? Let me know in the comments below, and until next time, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and of course leave a comment. Don't forget to support my Patreon page, follow me on social media, and until next time, this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you, there's only one.